My name's Taylor Rowan, and this is Confident Risks. Today, we're going to talk about being wrong. What does that mean? Is it a positive or is it a negative? Let's get started. Being wrong, it's something that even just hearing it can make us cringe a little bit, because a lot of us, we could think to ourselves about the situations that we've had in life, and you get in an argument maybe with your significant other, or maybe if it's one of your kids, or maybe it's somebody at work, and we get stuck in feeling like our way or our thought process is the right thought process. And a majority of the time we get stuck and we're just going to take that situation or that thing that we're arguing about to the grave because we don't want to be wrong. Why do we do that to ourselves? I can think back now to a lot of situations where I've been wrong, and it's been the biggest learning experiences that I've had. And here's what I think about that. Is to be wrong and to admit that you're wrong really is the first growing step that you have in life. Am I still a child or am I an adult now? And that's going to hit home, and that hurts and stings maybe for some people. But really, it's the first step from becoming a child to an adult, is that you're able to admit that you're wrong. And here's what that boils down to. If you have to admit that you're wrong, or you're really truly wanting to grow in life, you have to be able to listen. How do those two go together? If you're listening to respond instead of listening to understand, you're wrong. Point blank, you're wrong. If we are truly listening to respond to things as opposed to listening to understand things, and think about that. Think about that in most arguments that you get in. Maybe it's with a significant other. I don't know why that hits home for me, because me and my wife never fight. But let's say that we were fighting. Let's say we got into an argument. It was over where we're going to eat that night. I know there's a lot of other arguments that you could have. Let's just say it was going to be that. So we get into an argument. Hey, we're going to go here. And you start thinking to yourself, man, I'm going to die on this. I am not going to lose this argument. So you dig your heels in and you just start going with that argument. And we're listening. Maybe your significant other is bringing points up. I don't even listen sometimes. Sometimes I'm just so mindset on what my thought process is that everything else just goes out the window. And I have to check myself. Am I listening right now to respond, or am I listening because I'm just digging my heels in and it's going to be what it is and I'm going to die on this grave? Think about that. We do that when it comes to almost anything in life. Politics. I know that's one that hits home for a lot of people. We think to ourselves, you know what? This is my belief. This is what I believe. You know what? No, this is what I believe. This is what I think's right. Think about the arguments and the times that we maybe disagree with our significant other. And then when it comes to, like, let's say a political situation, no, this is where my stance is. This is what I believe in, or this is my stance. This is what I believe. Even though maybe someone else makes a better argument, we dig our heels in. We say, you know what? I'm right on this. This is what I believe. This is what I'm going to this is the hill that I'm going to die on. And we get so stuck on that. But the reality of it is this: if we truly want to grow, if we truly want to be better humans, be better at life, be better parents, whatever it is, we have to be willing to be wrong. That's what it boils down to. I got a great analogy. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this today is because I just dealt with this today with it. It came to a customer. I had a customer who received a product from us that was not happy. And my first initial instinct was to dig my heels in and say, you know what? I'm right on this. And for me, I knew I was right. And I wasn't willing to listen, I guess. But no, I knew the situation that we were in is that I knew that, you know what, this is something they signed off on. This is something they agreed to. But instead of digging my heels in and make it a combative situation, I listened to what they had to say. And we were able to resolve the issue. And it came about no cost to anybody. We were able to resolve an issue because the customer saw that I was willing to listen. Think about that for a second. The other situations in our lives that comes down to. Think about our family situations. If you have young kids, I know if I'm talking to my daughter, I can ask her if her room's clean, and she's going to tell me yes every single time. And I walk into her room like, this isn't clean. And she'll dig her heels in on that. And she'll say, you know what, Dad, it is clean. And I'll listen to her arguments on it, and we'll go back and forth about it. And I'm literally looking at her room floor. I can't see her floor. I can't see. How can you tell me that this isn't clean? Well, Dad, it boils down to these are all clothes. And these clothes are actually, they're dirty. So they should really be, so why are they in the dirty clothes box? And so we're starting to learn and listen. But it comes also down to when my daughter comes home, sometimes she's upset about something. And a lot of times I want to tell her why she's wrong on that. But instead I listen to her. And when I'm able to do that, she responds better to me. It all comes down to, if we want to be better, if we want to do things better, if we want to be better human beings, we have to admit that we are wrong. Think about that a little bit more when you're having a conversation with somebody. Maybe it's a customer, maybe it's a place that you work at, maybe it's at your home life, whatever it is. When you're able to say, you know what, I'm wrong, put yourself on the other side. Maybe you're the person that's trying to make a point about something, and maybe you're thinking, I know I'm right on this. I'm going to put my heels in. I'm going to say, and the other person says, you know what? You're right about that. Think about what that does to your attitude. The second somebody admits that and they put their guard down, it then allows you to put your guard down. And think about when that happens then. You're able to then have a cordial conversation because that person has now basically said, I'm in fear. You're right on that situation. And so then you get into this cordial conversation. Some of the best conversations I've had where I've been able to look back then and say, you know what, I'm wrong on that situation. And I see that person's guard drop. And we're then able to have this conversation that is truly meaningful because that person does not feel like they have to attack anymore. They're coming at me. They now know that I've let my guard down. They let their guard down. And we're able to have this conversation that's actually real. And we're talking about what actually matters then at that point. Instead of trying to say, this is why I'm right, this is why I'm right, we're able to let our guards down. We're able to actually attack the topic at hand and come up with a solution that's right. That goes with almost every single thing that we do in life on an everyday basis is why do we feel like we have to be right about everything? We don't. Sit back, think about those situations. Think about if you were, and I do this a lot, pretty much in every single podcast. I know I always say to do this, but it's something that I use all the time. I always put myself in somebody else's shoes. Before I go, maybe I have a disagreement with, and maybe it's a coach. Maybe it's somebody, I think at times when I was growing up and I was playing football or soccer or whatever it was, and I can think about the times where I maybe didn't agree with something. I go into that conversation completely open, even say, look, man, I know this is going to be a controversial conversation, but at the same time, I don't want it to be. I want you to know my feelings. I want you to know where I sit on the topic I'm about to talk about. And then I want to know what you have to say about it. And I go into a situation like that, as opposed to going into a situation like, this was wrong, accusatory manners. I let my guard down. I expose myself right off the bat and say, look, this is where I stand on that topic. And I'm able to let that person then talk to me. When we're able to do that, we're able to then actually fix issues as opposed to just trying to go into defensive mode. Here's the reality of it. If we want to grow, if we truly want to become better at what we do, we have to be able to admit that we were wrong, whether that's in a relationship, whether that's at work, whatever it is. The biggest learning experiences I've had, I'm going to take this back a little bit to business, but it's the times that I've learned the most because that's when I've really had to put the most on the line. I've had to, that's when you're putting all your chips on the table and you're maybe at the blackjack table and you're like, okay, I'm all in on this. And that's what it's like when you start a business because you're putting the investment in on yourself. And so you really see the rubber hit the road when that happens because you can't just fake being right or wrong. It's gonna come back and bite you in the butt eventually. If you're wrong about something you're truly not willing to learn, then you're gonna pay for it. So I can think back to a lot of times when I started the business and I'm like, okay, this is the way that I see this going. And I go through my thought process and then I have to look at it and be like, crap, I was wrong about that. And you have to be willing to make the mistake and you have to be willing to learn from the mistake. And the reason why I say you have to be willing to make the mistake is because you're putting everything out there at the beginning. And if something comes back and you weren't right about it, you have to be willing to say, crap, I was wrong. How do I fix that? Once you can do that, the biggest learning experiences that you have are from your mistakes. Think about that. If you think back in life on your mistakes that you made, if you were able to then fix that mistake, you now have lessons that you can go back. I had my parents, I can remember just even growing up saying, okay, this is, and I remember thinking to myself, like, that's not how I'm going to do it this way. But yet they've been through those experiences in life. The same thing happens at work. There's people who have been through experiences in life and they say, hey, this is how this should go. But you really, truly don't learn until you make that mistake yourself. But the real question is, when you do make that mistake, are you willing to make the change? Or do you keep going down that path and you dig your heels in? Because if you do dig your heels in, eventually it's going to come back and it's going to bite you. If you're not willing to make changes in your social life, in your financial life, and your business life, whatever it is, it will eventually come back and haunt you. But it starts with saying, I was wrong. And when you say I was wrong about something, some of you you're just cringing even hearing those words right now. I would never go back and admit that I was wrong about something. But until you're willing to do that, you are not willing to grow. And if you're not willing to grow, you're not going to succeed. And to go back and say what success is being happy. Success is enjoying what you do. Success is being able to grow, to be able to raise your kids. There will be times every single day that you are wrong, and you need to be able to say that. Here's another great example of why being able to admit you're wrong is such a positive. if you can think back, or if you think about, maybe it's a business setting where you're talking to, maybe it's another employee, or maybe it's your boss or whoever it is, and you're talking to that person, and you're able to come back and say, you know what, actually, I'm wrong on this situation. You're right. That I was completely in the wrong on that. That should be done that way. Here's what that does as well. Being able to admit that now makes you more credible. When you become more credible, now you're able to be listened to much more often. And I'm not saying that you can use this as ammunition later, but at the same time now, when you do go into a situation and you're able to actually talk about things that you know, or things that you really feel strongly about, that person is now much more willing to listen to you, because they know in the back of their head, you know what, this person's admitted me before when they were wrong. There's no reason why they shouldn't be doing that now. So people listen to you more. People are a lot more open to listening to what you have to say. Think about the person that you know that's just always right, or always has that situation in their head where they're thinking to themselves, like, they get into a conversation, like, this person is never going to change their mind. Even though maybe you're right, this person is just going to dig their heels in. They lose all credibility to you. And that is the deciding factor, like I said at the very beginning. To me, the point where you become an adult versus a kid is when you are able to look at situations and say, I'm not right about this. I'm wrong on this situation, and you're able to grow from it. That is the true definition, in my opinion, of adulthood, is when you're able to take those times, learn from them, get better from them, and move on. Those are the people who truly want to be successful, because here's what they seek. They seek truth. They don't seek being right. They seek truth. And if we all start doing that, if we all start thinking to ourselves on any topic, this goes on anything. This doesn't just go into business. This doesn't go into, this goes with anything that we do. If we seek truth over being right, we will be better as a species. We will be better as human beings in everything that we do if we can look at things saying to ourselves, like, how do we truly get to being successful? How do we truly get to being happy? How do we truly get to be better? When we start doing that, as opposed to saying, you know what, I'm right on this situation, you're wrong on this situation, and the hate builds up, that will be the demise of humans, which we're getting close to that right now. Example of this too, I think about now, is I look at social media and I look at people who now, what I'm starting to realize is people just like hearing themselves talk. They get an idea in their head. They think to themselves, I'm right about this. This person's wrong about this. So now we even take it to a social media standpoint. We're like, I have to go after this person who made this post because I need to let them know that they're wrong. Well, why do we feel like we have to do that? I mean, it even goes back to religion, even the same thing. The religious beliefs that some of us have, we got to tell this person that they're wrong. Why do we have to do that? What it comes down to is, are we willing to listen? Are we willing to listen about why that person maybe has those thoughts? I can think just recently, one of my buddies, think about from college. I mean, he got into a situation where he made a post, and he's pretty popular on social media. He made a post and everyone just starts attacking him for this. And I was like, look, if these people truly knew the heart of my buddy, they would know and understand what true love actually was. But yet we would go and attack that person because they made this post that we didn't necessarily agree with. Who cares? Okay. The heart is the thing that we need to be looking at and realize, are we just saying these things because that we feel like we are the police, we're policing this situation? Or are we truly telling ourselves, you know what? True love is doing that. It's showing true love to people. And it's being able to admit sometimes, you know what, I was wrong about this situation. But it also means not trying to seek out to tell people that they're wrong either. That's not our place to do that. We need to do a lot less of that. If you truly want to show people the light, preach what you do daily and use words when you have to. Preach your belief daily and use words when you have to. We talked about this in season 1. We talked about this more on a business level, but this is an everyday life. People should know the beliefs that you have, not necessarily on just a religious level, but also the beliefs that you have, your core values. They should see the love through you by the things that you do. We should not have to go and seek people out or tell people that they're wrong. That is just us liking to hear ourselves talk. It's not spreading the love. It's not spreading the joy of life to other people. We are literally going out and we are looking for confrontation. Why do we do that? The best thing sometimes is left them unsaid. And some of you may be saying to yourself, yeah, well, some people do things wrong way. They need to be told that they're wrong. People are putting it out there for your response. You are feeding the fuel. That's all that you're doing. When you respond to those, you are just feeding the fuel. What it boils down to, this whole episode, is this: being able to admit that we're wrong and not seeking people out to tell them that they're wrong will bring true growth in our life. If we're able to sit back and say to ourselves, you know what, I was wrong about the situation, you were right, it brings more value to the things that we say later on in life. That's the message today. Be willing to say I was wrong. You know what? You don't believe me? Try it out in the next argument you have with your spouse. It's going to just throw them for a load. Wait, you said what again? You're wrong? Yeah, I'm wrong about the situation. You're right. Oh, okay. It's going to bring more clout to what you do later. I hope you guys are able to take something that you heard today, apply it to your everyday life. If so, please hit the like, hit the subscribe button. I absolutely love doing this. I'm going to continue to do it. Every Tuesday, there's a new episode. Until next time, stay sharp and stay resilient.